This is Audible.
Macmillan Audio presents Good Morning Monster by Catherine Gildiner. Read for you by Deborah Burgess.
Author's Note. I would like to express thanks to the patients I describe in this book. The 5 patients featured here had very different social backgrounds, came from different cultures, and most importantly, had very different temperaments. Laura and Madeline, from opposite ends of the economic spectrum, were both pure pluck. Danny impressed with his stoical nature, Peter with his forgiveness, and Alana with her endurance. Each had heroic qualities I longed for. I learned an enormous amount about different coping strategies from them, and used their lessons often. Each one of them altered my psyche for the better. There is no greater generosity than sharing your life story, and I am enormously grateful to these patients. In return, I worked hard to maintain their anonymity. It was crucial that they not be recognizable. This is not a book for academics, but for the general public. Although I wanted the book to be inspirational, I also wanted it to be a learning tool. I have reconstructed our conversations from my session notes with each patient. But in order to clearly delineate the psychological truths that I wanted to illustrate and to camouflage the identity of the patients, I made some people composites by including certain details from some of my other cases if I felt they made a psychological point more clearly. Each case has been shaped into a narrative, so some details are accentuated while others are dropped for the sake of clarity. I thank them all for sharing their battles with me and with others. I'm sure Peter, the musician, spoke for all when he said, "If sharing my story helps even one person who is suffering, it will have been worth it." Gratefully, Catherine Gildiner. Laura. My heart is not a home for cowards. D. Antoinette Foy. 1. Surrounded by the village idiots. The day I opened my private practice as a psychologist, I sat smugly in my office, fortified with the knowledge I'd acquired, taking comfort in the rules I'd learned. I looked forward to having patients I could cure. I was deluded. Fortunately, I had no idea at the time what a messy business clinical psychology was, or I may have opted for pure research, an area where I'd have control over my subjects and variables. Instead, I had to learn how to be flexible as new information trickled in weekly. I had no idea on that first day that psychotherapy wasn't the psychologist solving problems, but rather 2 people facing each other week after week, endeavoring to reach some kind of psychological truth we could agree on. No one brought this home to me more than Laura Wilkes, my first patient. She was referred to me through a general practitioner, who in his recorded message said, "She'll fill you in on the details." I don't know who was more frightened, Laura or I. I was newly transformed from a student in jeans and a t-shirt to a professional, decked out in a silk blouse and a designer suit with linebacker shoulder pads, de rigueur in the early 80s. I sat behind my huge mahogany desk, looking like a cross between Anna Freud and Joan Crawford. Luckily, I had prematurely white hair in my 20s, which added some much-needed gravitas to my demeanor. Laura was barely 5 feet high, with an hourglass figure, huge almond eyes, and such full lips that had it been 30 years later, I would have suspected Botox injections. She had masses of shoulder-length blonde highlighted hair, and her porcelain skin contrasted sharply with her dark eyes. Perfect makeup, with bright red lipstick,